It's the Paradise Podcast.
I am your host, Ryan Michelle Bethay, with my husband, Sterling.
What's up?
Join us here on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus, where we'll discuss each episode with the cast and crew of Paradise. I'll be getting all the secrets from Dan Fogelman, James Marsden, Shailene Woodley, Julianne Nicholson, and Sterling Kelby Brown. Woo! Paradise, the official podcast, is now streaming.
And stream Paradise on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus.
Welcome to Futures Focus, talking all prospects all the time across all the levels of the game. Brought to you by Prospects 1500. Welcome back, listeners. Your host, Jeremy May, is here again. Like I said on our last podcast, took a little break, but it is so good to get back into this. It's so exciting. We've got live minor league baseball going on. It's a great time of year. The Major League Baseball teams are passing out contracts to the top prospects like it's candy on Halloween right now. So that's even more exciting that some of these young studs are getting locked up. As I was reading before we came on air here, it looks like J.J. Weatherholt and Connor Griffin are getting close to hammering out deals. So it's really exciting that some of these young guys are getting tied up. But we're going to leave the minor league baseball talk aside for tonight, and we're going to talk about some future minor league baseball players and bring in Shaun Kernahan, our college and amateur expert here in to talk tonight about some college stuff, what's happening in the early season, and then I'm going to pepper him with some questions and put him on the spot here at the end and let some of our listeners start to prep for that for their 2026-2027 FYPD drafts. So, and we'll have a little bit of fun with that, and then we can talk some college baseball. But before we dive in here, Shaun, I'd be remiss if I did not make a public service announcement, if you will, directly from our president, Scott, and this one hits close to home. He wants to remind you, as always, be vigilant on Twitter, on X, on any social media for that matter. But as myself and multiple other contributors from Prospects 1500 found out this week, just because a message comes from somebody that you think you know that asks you to click on a link to vote for their podcast, be very cautious, because I clicked on that link to vote for somebody's podcast, and within 30 minutes, my Twitter account was gone and it is now in the hands of someone else. So, reminder, everybody, be vigilant out there. If you are listeners of this show and you were following me previously to get show notes, that was at JMayFam on X. Don't accept anything from me right now, because that's not me. So ignore me, move on. I know it's even really messed with a lot of what Scott, our president, wanted to do on social media. We're kind of having to revamp behind the scenes and kind of see where we go as an organization too. So that's just a real quick thing. Obviously, you always want to be careful, and it's a nuisance to me. But it's kind of funny, Shaun, when I sit back and think about it. I'm like, really? Like, you want to hack this guy that has all I'm talking about is minor league baseball? I mean, you really? Okay, I'll enjoy that. So, anyways, well, we'll move on. I just wanted to throw that out there and protect the listeners and, all that good stuff. So, but anyways, back to the college baseball talk. Again, we are joined by Shaun Kernahan. Anybody who listens to our show has heard Shaun as a guest on here with me at least twice, 3 times maybe.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4 times.
A lot more regular. I'm speaking for Shaun a little bit, but I would really like once a month during the college season to have Shaun on and to kind of update some of this stuff, talk about what's going on in college, and then again we'll do what we did last year and really dive into the draft once it's done and get his thoughts, because man, Shaun covers these guys like no one else. Like Shaun said on our draft wrap last year, he had already at that time started working on 2027 and even some 2028 kids, I believe, if I remember right. But reintroduce yourself to our crew and kind of set up the show for us.
Yeah, of course. Again, my name is Shaun Kernahan. I am the, I guess you could say, the lead draft writer here at Prospects 1500. I also run my own site, threequarterslot.com. You're right. I have 2028s out, 2027s, 2026. My site, I've got a team of 4 of us. We've got 17 reports every week, 2 to 3 reports a day that we post out there, breaking down high school, college, even some minor leaguers now. And that's, like I said, 26, 27, and 28. I'm actually selling a draft guide this year for the first time. That will be my top 650 players for the draft, with a full 1-page scouting report and breakdown for each of them. So started working on getting that formatted and things like that, and ready to go. We are, we're recording on Wednesday night, April the 1st. Tomorrow is April the 2nd, which is a significant day because it officially begins the countdown. Tomorrow is 100 days to the draft. So by the time you guys listen to this on your podcast apps, we'll be inside 100 days to the draft.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that. In, like you said, about 100 days we'll have our crew down in Philadelphia at the draft. So that's going to be fun stuff. But yeah, Shaun, I'm glad you alluded to that. I do want to tell our listeners, Shaun he sent me a bit of a preview to that draft guide, and I'm telling you what, guys, it will be well worth your time. And the small fee that Shaun will charge to have that thing, because it just what he showed me was impressive. So it's, if you love college, if you love minor league or amateur scouting and want to get a leg up on your league in the FYPD draft, it is a resource you do not want to pass up. But yeah, Shaun, you alluded to it. Today is April 1st, which I'm not into the whole April Fool's thing. I do have a lot of employees that work for me, and I will admit one of them got me really, really, really good this morning, sent me into a panic for about a minute before they followed up with a text that said April Fools, and I felt much better. But anybody who's listened to this show before knows where my college baseball allegiance lies. And I feel like the Razorbacks are kind of April Foolsing me to this point in the season. 19-11 with a 4-5 SEC record. We got swept at home by the Gators. I don't know if I want to talk anymore about the Razorbacks tonight, Shaun, so forgive me if I'm a little sour.
And that was a Gators team who got no hit by Tyler Fay the week before. So
yeah, yep. I know. I could talk so much about the Razorbacks, but that's not. There's so much better college baseball to talk about right now. They'll get it. They're gonna turn it around. I'm confident they're gonna. Well, I'm semi-confident. Anyways, let's move on. Okay, so Shaun and I kind of talked off air about a format, and I think what I'd like to do, Shaun, is Baseball America on Monday mornings, like we talked about, puts out their top 25, I believe, right? Top 25 power rankings, I guess you'd call them, for Division I baseball. So I think I'd kind of like to run through them a little bit, get your thoughts, because you follow this a lot closer, and just kind of let the conversation take us where it takes us. So again, this came out on Monday morning, so this is fresh rankings here from Baseball America, and their top 3. And Shaun, I don't doubt it, debate it. It seems like a pretty safe top three, but their top three, UCLA came in at number one, Texas coming in at number two, and Georgia Tech coming in at number three. Shaun, thoughts? Is that your top three? Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could have some argument Texas, Georgia Tech, 2 or 3. For the most part, consensus around the industry is Texas 2, Georgia Tech 3, especially with where they started the year. With a no-brainer, UCLA number 1. They are 25-2.
Mm-hmm.
And that was coming in on Monday. I don't remember if they played last night or tonight. But beside the point, they 12-0 in the Big Ten. They've got the number 1 prospect in college baseball in the draft for 2026. The one thing they were missing last year was the ace. They've got Logan Redeman in there this year, who has been absolutely dominant. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but it's something like a 50. I think it's like 51-6. His strikeout to walk ratio so far this year, it's absolutely been insane. They brought in Will Gasparino from Texas. Gasparino is showing some adjustments. The power's playing. They've got him out in center field where, he is a long-bodied, good mover in the outfield and a really good center fielder. It's just, Levi LaVue, Roman Martin, Cashel Duggar behind the plate, Dean West out in left field, Aiden Aguayo at second base. You got Dominique Cadiz. Like I just went through, I think 8 of the 9 of their lineup are either the Cadiz and Roman Martin. I'm sorry, Cadiz and Aguayo are 2 freshmen who are playing really well. The rest of them all 2026 eligible, and in the top. They will all make my top 650. Let's put it that way at the end of the year when I do my final list.
Yeah,
That said, go ahead, man.
No, you're good. I was just kind of rolling through their schedule while you were talking here, and it's not. I really this weekend's going to be a fun matchup.
Yes.
Them and USC.
I was wait till we got to USC to bring that matchup up, but let's dive into it.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about USC because I've got a question for you about USC too. So,
all right, we'll cover this weekend series when we get to that point. But yeah,
sounds good. Yeah, let's not spoil that. But it's not like they've played slouches, to this point. I mean, they took 3 from TCU, if I'm looking. Yeah, 3 from TCU. They've knocked off Tennessee. They've knocked off Texas A&M, knocked off Mississippi State. So they've run through the SEC so far undefeated. Knocked off a pretty dang decent Cal State Fullerton team, if I remember right. I think that was early in the year.
Yep,
yeah, March. Yeah, early in March. So it's not like
it's not like. Yeah, the 2 losses was the Sunday against UC San Diego, and then a San Diego State loss on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, those midweek games are tough. But yeah, so you rattle off a record like that, and yeah, it sounds great. But then you throw in who they've been playing, and that's pretty dang impressive. So yeah,
the difficult part of their schedule is behind them.
Yeah, especially after this weekend, I'd say.
Yep.
So.
They've only got two legit series left this weekend and then at the end of the year against Oregon. Otherwise, they've got a pretty light schedule, and that's just the case with the Big Ten.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But yeah, so UCLA pretty easy, number 1. Texas, Georgia Tech. Thoughts on either one of those things? I'm going to ask you a question about Texas. They've got a pitcher there that I'm going to be honest with you. I just didn't know much about before I kind of started. I saw him pitch once, and then I've kind of dove into his stats. I'm like, dang. So Roger Riojas, I'm going to say.
Ruger Riojas.
Yeah. So is he maybe the best pitcher in college baseball that we're not talking enough about? I mean, I just looked at him. As his stats sit today, he's 5-0 with a 1.59 ERA. And what's crazy to me, in 40 innings, he's got 64 Ks to only 7 walks. So not only is he blowing people away, but he's obviously got the command rolling with it. So tell me about him if you're very knowledgeable about him, Shaun, because I didn't know much about that guy before I saw some innings from him earlier this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's got plus flow going with the long hair and the mustache,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
does lack a true plus pitch. I mean, he's a fastball up to 96,
Okay.
splitter, curveball, cutter. He's got a sweeping slider he mixes in sometimes. It's just not as often. It's just the two breaking balls. I don't really love either of those. I think that he's got to pick a shape and go with it. The cutter's good. The cutter surprisingly has depth right around 98 miles an hour. It's a weird like vertical breaker, which is like where is it a cutter slider? Is the slider a curveball? Beside the point, obviously it's been successful for him this year. He's the Friday night guy for Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He started last year in the bullpen, moved his way into the rotation, and is showing well. Early last year, he was 92, 93. Now he's sitting more 94, 96. So he's gotten a few ticks on the fastball. The splitter's really good. Like I said, he's got the cutter slider and the curveball slider. Again, it just depends on what you want to call it. I call it effective. He's having a heck of a year. In terms of future professional upside, the best arm in the rotation is Dylan Volantis, who's their Sunday guy. But Ruger Riojas is a true college baseball ace, and he's showing it this year.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Yeah, and he's a senior, so he will definitely be hitting that draft. I think he's a senior, if I remember right. Yeah,
I think he's a junior. Beside the point, I know he's eligible this year.
Draft eligible. Yeah. Either way. So, yeah. Okay. So there's Texas. We've talked about UCLA, Texas. Any thoughts on Georgia Tech? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to bring up something about Georgia Tech a little bit later. Spoiler alert. But anything you want to mention about them to this point?
Coming into the year, we had that. There was the debate: who's going to be the number 2 college guy off the board? Was it going to be Justin LeBron? Was it going to be Drew Burress? The answer might be neither of them. It might be Von Lackey, the catcher there in Georgia Tech, and just it's for average. He has a really good eye at the plate. He's got some pop. He's a really good catcher. He was with the U.S. national team, the collegiate national team over the summer, even though the collegiate national team did not fare well in Japan. He's a guy who's absolutely been on a tear. He's in the discussion for player of the year at this point, just what he's done this year. And I want to point out, like, if you look at those top 3 that we were talking about, UCLA, Texas, and Georgia Tech, and I actually talked about this on my podcast, is coming out on the 2nd. So by the time this is live, that will already be out as well. If you look at D1 baseball this week, they did a refresh of their top position players by position, and each of these 3 teams had a catcher in the top 11. Von Lackey, number 1 for Georgia Tech. Carson Tinney, number 11 on that rank for Texas. And I don't remember exactly where Cashel Duggar was. It was in between there. And what's even crazier than that is that Cashel Duggar and Carson Tinney, they were high school teammates, same graduating year at a high school in Colorado, to the point where Cashel Duggar played a lot of third base because Carson Tinney was behind the plate. They're now the catchers for 1 and 2 in the country, and the best catcher in college baseball is the number 3 team. I think catcher's an underrated position in college baseball, and I think that these 3 teams are showing it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's really exciting. Being a former catcher myself, it's very exciting to hear the catchers getting some love. So, yeah, Von Lackey, crazy story. I was reading a lot about him, and it's crazy to think that guy, from where he's at now, he was not highly recruited coming out of high school.
He was not a top 500 recruit.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you. But Georgia Tech's got some magic there. I mean, I was reading an article about it. They can really develop there, so that's pretty impressive. And I think that kid's going to make himself some money here in a few months. Okay, so let's jump back into the list, and we'll go. We'll since we did the first three in chunks, we'll do the next three. Then how about that? Again, Baseball America has Georgia coming in at number 4, another SEC school coming in at number 5, and Mississippi State. And then number 6 is the Seminoles from Florida State. So is that your 4, 5, 6, Shaun? Do you agree with that? Do you move them around any?
Like I said before, it's the top three, and then there's everybody else. There's arguments to
Yeah.
be made once you get to here. I think that that's a pretty good next three. There's some arguments to be made for some of the other ones, but we'll see what USC does over the weekend. I can see them moving up. Oregon State just doesn't have the schedule they had last year. We'll see, but it's hard in terms of these are the 3 teams with really some of the better records in conference and out of conference from the SEC and the ACC, which are the 2 premier conferences. I have no qualms with that. And then what's crazy is you look at Georgia, and they got Volchko and Matt Scott, 2 guys who just couldn't put it all together at Stanford. Now they're at Georgia, and it's a top 5 team in the country. Mississippi State has got Ace Reese, one of the better hitters in college baseball. Jack Bauer's throwing 102 from the mound. Thomas Valencius is looking like a Friday night starter, something that I had some questions on coming into the year. So Mississippi State's really looking good, and then Florida State. I mean, I love Trey Beard coming into it. Wes Mendez is looking good, and then you got the guy who hits balls further than anybody in college baseball, Miles Bailey. That's a fun team as well, and there's really no qualms with any of those 3.
Yeah, I'm glad you. Maybe not glad. Glad is the wrong word. I'm glad you brought up Miles Bailey. Man, tough to see that injury sliding into second base. I was reading it. It sounds like he's out for the year, right? It was an actual
He is
fracture,
out for the
I
season.
believe.
Yeah,
That's such a bummer, man. He's such an exciting guy to watch. But now, correct me if I'm wrong. He's a sophomore, right? So he was not drafted. So at least
he's a draft eligible sophomore.
He is a draft. So most likely he's probably gonna come back for another year, hopefully. And who knows? He may still go ahead and jump out. But man, it was tough to see that. Kind of nasty looking injury. Tough for the Knowles, and tough for him.
But I mean, they've got plenty of depth in that lineup. There's obviously not going to be anybody with the pop at first base, but it's still a deep lineup. And based on what they've done so far, still absolutely justifiable to be top 6.
Sure, yeah. All right, so there's 4 through 6. We'll do 7 through 9, and that'll be a good place to pause at number 9.
Yep.
But coming in at number 7, you go back to the ACC with them Tar Heels. Number 8, Oregon State, which I maybe in my head I was a little surprised they were 8. I kind of thought maybe a little higher, but and then the aforementioned Trojans of USC coming in at number 9. So what say you about that grouping of 3, Shaun? Pretty legit there.
Absolutely. I mean, North Carolina, they're a team that has just some really good pitching, some quality bats as well. With Gavin Gallagher, I think that Eric Paulson, Owen Hull's a good bat there, but really it runs through Ryan Lynch and Jason DeCaro on the mound. Oregon State, I think that really it comes down to their schedule this year. Last year they had one of those just absolutely ridiculous schedules that they were able to put together. This year they opened up out in surprise like they're always doing. They had a decent one with decent group there with Michigan, Arizona, and Stanford. But then their Round Rock and Frisco trips weren't overly impressive. They beat Baylor, then they lost to Southern Miss, who's a team who you could argue in this spot. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Alabama, really their only other ranked opponent. They knocked off Houston and Iowa. But, then since then they've seen Xavier, San Diego, UC Irvine, Mercer for weekend series. It's just, and the rest of the way they've got Lamar, Cal Poly, Cal State Fullerton, Hawaii. It's just
Yeah,
not the
that's weak.
greatest of it's not the schedule that they had last year. I actually think Cal Poly could win that series up in Corvallis. Um, so, but that being said, they've got the best pitcher in baseball in
Hmm.
Dax Whitney in terms of pure stuff. However, what they don't have is the pitcher who's been pitching the best in baseball, in college baseball this year, and that's the number 9 USC with Mason Edwards on the mound. He didn't have the sharpest of stuff in Maryland this last weekend. Some rough weather and didn't have the command that he had shown earlier in the year. But this guy has been the definition of lights out.
Yes, and that is a perfect segue to my question for you about the number 9 team in USC. Is there, in your opinion, is there a better 1-2 punch in college baseball than Mason Edwards and Grant Govil for USC, the lefty and the righty at the top of that rotation? Those two guys are absolutely dominant. I saw some crazy numbers on them earlier in the season, and I pulled them up and looked at them again before we jumped on here tonight. Combined, those two guys are 11-0 on the year.
With a combined ERA, they might still be under 1.
Yes, so Mason Edwards' ERA, even after the rougher outing, is still under 1. Grant Govil's jumped a little bit from the last time I saw. He's like 1.2. He doesn't look, from what I'm looking at, he doesn't quite have the put away the K stuff that Mason Edwards does. Mason Edwards 74 Ks and 40.1 innings is getting it done. And again, it's not like they're playing slouch team. So it is going to be crazy exciting for me this weekend, assuming that that's your Friday and your Saturday starters, right, for USC?
Yep, it should be that. Again, that Friday night, Logan Redeman against Mason Edwards. I've got one of my guys who'll be out at that game. Every scout in Southern California will be out of that game. This will be Mason Edwards' biggest matchup. The thing with Mason Edwards is his stuff is not that eye-popping stuff. The fastball, I think it tops out like 93 or so. It's not this big overpowering fastball. The breaking ball, I've heard some concerns just that there's not the sharpness to the breaking ball. But if he continues to put up numbers like he's putting up, you can't argue with that. You can't argue against that. And if he shuts down UCLA like he has done pretty much everybody else he's seen this year, there's that's 8-9 guys who are going to be pros if not big leaguers. It's as strong a lineup as you're going to see. If he can go ahead and show like he has all year against UCLA, the argument about stuff versus results, you're going to have to results will win out, because even though the stuff isn't the raw big stuff, it is absolutely efficient and effective, especially against a team like UCLA, the best offense, the best lineup you're going to see in college baseball.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun matchup. It's gonna be a fun matchup on Friday for sure. All right, so that we'll round out the top 10 and talk about Alabama. You have another SEC team coming in there. You already mentioned Tyler Fry's no hitter against the Gators. I think 13K no hitter. That's pretty impressive
Against a pretty good lineup with the Gators.
Yeah. Obviously, I got to see the Gators live and up close against my Hogs, and they can hit the ball. So, yeah, definitely impressive. When I looked at his stats, he hasn't had the greatest of seasons after that outing, but still, to shut down that lineup with 13 Ks, you got to give him props for that, for sure. But so there's your top 10. Probably I'll just read. I might just read through some of these, Shaun. I'll group them in
Yeah.
5, and then you can kind of give me some of your thoughts. But so coming in at number 11, we're going to get SEC heavy here. But number 11, the Auburn Tigers. 12, Oklahoma Sooners. 13, West Virginia. 14, Cal State Fullerton. And then 15 was my Hogs, which actually I was surprised to see them at 15, to be honest. I was kind of thinking they'd come in lower, but yeah. So there's kind of the next 5. What do you think about that grouping of 5 there, Shaun?
Yeah, I think 14 was West Virginia from what I'm seeing, but beside the point. It's
Oh yeah, I got them wrong. I got them flip flopped. You're right. Yep.
no worries. It's West Virginia has has been the class of the Big 12 so far. They have shown really well. Arkansas, the ups and downs. The Gators, they're 23-6, but 6-3 in the SEC. They've got the ups and the downs. They got no hit, but they also swept Arkansas. Oklahoma, they just got swept by Texas. No fault to there. Texas is obviously a very good team, but they just got swept. They got a losing record in the SEC, as does Auburn. The SEC it absolutely brutal going through the SEC with those lineups and those teams. Auburn, they only took 1 of 3 against Texas a couple of weeks ago, and that one win was an error by Aiden Robbins in center field, ends up allowing the go ahead run, the walk off run to score from first. So the SEC is tough. So you look at some of those records, and a 4-5 record in the SEC is still a very good team, and that's why you're going to see so many SEC teams there that 11 through 15.
Yeah, sorry, I did want to correct my rankings earlier. It was Auburn at 11, OU at 12, West Virginia at 13, Florida at 14, not Cal State Fullerton. I wrote FL, and I just said Fullerton. I don't know why I was thinking that. And then the Hogs at 15. So, yeah, Florida, not Cal State Fullerton. Sorry, Titans fans. It's actually the Florida Gators at number 14. So, yeah. So, that's that grouping of 5. We'll come on down. I think we'll just go through 20, Shaun, and then we can kind of dive into some other stuff. But so coming in at number 16 is Southern Miss, I believe, if I wrote that. Yeah, Southern Miss.
It is, yep.
Oregon at 17. Coastal Carolina coming in at 18. Virginia coming in at 19, and then NC State, another ACC, to round out the top 20.
Yeah, and the team I want to highlight here is Southern Miss. They're a team that you could make an argument for being in the top 10. Coming out of the Sun Belt. Coastal also coming out of the Sun Belt, and they've been dealing with injuries this year. So the Sun Belt is the class of the non-power conferences yet again, and Southern Miss in this ranking is 16th. We're talking about a team that could yet again have an argument to host a regional, and Southern Miss is not a team you want to mess with. I'm actually going to go and extend this list out to 21, just as I want to shout out the BC Bird Ball, the Boston College Eagles, actually making it in the top 25. They're having a heck of a season, 20-9, 8-4 in the ACC. Bird Ball is showing up so far this year.
That I'm glad you said that, because that is not exactly a baseball powerhouse name that you typically think of. So yeah, great call out there for Boston College. That's awesome for them. Yeah, I actually was fairly surprised. I'm glad you mentioned Southern Miss. I was actually surprised to see them ranked behind the Razorbacks just based off of their early season success, but it probably is based off the weight of the SEC a little bit there. But Shaun, is there any other teams there in that you feel like could have cracked that top 20 other than maybe Boston College that could have cracked that top 20 that did not?
Texas A&M has shown really well so far this year. I think that they're with Chris Acopi and Caden Sorrell is playing lights out. I think Texas A&M, if they are, you don't want to see them as the number 2 seed in the regional. You got Kentucky, who's only going to get improve as Tyler Bell gets healthier and healthier after losing some time earlier in the year and now starting to DH. So there's definitely some teams there. But yeah, I think it's the Texas A&M and Kentucky are the two that I think are currently outside that top 20. Who, if you tell me they end up hosting a regional come the postseason, I wouldn't be shocked.
Start your day with Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal. The instant oatmeal ready to help you tackle whatever your day brings, like wrangling your toddler into their car seat. That was fun. Coaching your 6th graders soccer team. Go girls! And carrying all the groceries in one trip. Whew. Try Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal, granola, and bars. Great taste and a good source of protein. Quaker, bring out the good.
You tell yourself, no one wants your college-era band tees. But on Depop, people are searching for exactly what you've got. You once paid a small fortune for them at merch stands. Now, a teenager who calls them vintage will offer that same small fortune back. Sell them easily on Depop. Just snap a few photos and we'll take care of the rest. Who knew your questionable music taste would be a money-making machine? Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I mentioned that I was going to throw some rapid fire, or should throw some questions at you. I've got some questions, but two of them are I'm going to kind of separate them because it kind of falls under more what we were talking about. So we're going to do some fill in the blanks, but these first 2 questions are going to be more related directly to teams in general, kind of like what we just ran through. But so, Shaun, if I had to say the biggest surprise team so far to this point in the season is blank, fill in the blank for me.
LSU.
Yeah.
LSU has absolutely fallen off the table. I don't know what's going on with them. I could make coming into the year, you can make the argument that they had the right to be number 1. I understand a lot of times the teams that it's been a long time since we've had the national champion even make it back to Omaha. And I thought this year was going to end that. I know they lost a ton of talent, but they brought in a bunch of talent. Bringing in Zach York, bringing in Trent Caraway, bringing in just a bunch of guys in there. Derek Carriel just hasn't taken the step forward like we're hoping to see. Jake Brown has plenty of power, but it's just that team just hasn't put it all together. I didn't think the pitching was going to take as big of a step back as it has. LSU is a surprise. And Tennessee not being a top 25 team is another one. I get that they lost Tony V pretty late in the process, and that's that absolutely hurt. But at the same time, you look at their roster; they didn't lose anybody because of it. They got the guy that everybody knew the moment Tony V was announced going to San Francisco. Everybody knew who the new head coach was going to be there. So it's just. Tennessee, I thought would be a little bit more seamless in that transition, and LSU, I thought were going to be a heck of a lot better than they have been so far.
Yeah, that would definitely. So LSU was going to be my kind of obvious answer to the second question I was going to ask you. So I'm going to flip it on you because the next question I was going to ask you is the most disappointing team is. So let's insert LSU there. Let's go back to the first question, and I'm going to. Because yes, it is a surprise as well. So on the
side of things,
so then give me a surprise on the positive end. So give me.
We've already talked about them. It's USC.
Okay. That was going to be my guess.
What Stankiewicz has done there has been absolutely fantastic. They had a good recruiting class with Kevin. Gavin Lordson. I always butcher his name. My apologies there, Gavin. But they've got some good 27s, but they don't have. It's not like this dominant draft team coming up. It's with Maximo Martinez, it would be a quality for 27. Mason Edwards, obviously, lifting his stock. Grant Govil, Gavin Lordson got the start yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't perform wonderfully. Diego Velasquez is another 2028 freshman on campus. He is talented. I think this is one of the better recruiting classes they've had in quite some time. But they are absolutely outperforming their overall talent. 1 through 9, they are outperforming compared to what was expected, and that's just awesome to see. And a credit to Stankiewicz.
Yep, great. That's great. It's great stuff right there. Okay, Shaun, we're going to move away. Well, we're not really move away from the college game. We're going to kind of move towards some, let's call it draft predictions, maybe, or maybe your gut from early on in the college season. So I'm going to throw some like 5 more questions at you here, put you on the spot. And then we'll maybe we'll kind of see how these answers change throughout the season, and then maybe we can grade you at the end when the draft actually happens. And as we've talked about, the draft can be so unpredictable. Anyways, okay. So here's my first question for you: If Rock is not the number 1 pick to the White Sox, who is?
I may be out on an island on this one, but to me, it would be Jacob Lombard. Lombard has actually been sliding a little bit, not due to anything that he's done. He is an absolute stud out of, I believe it's Gulliver Prep out in Florida. George Lombard's little brother. Jacob Lombard is 70 speed. He's got power. He can hit. He can play defense. He's a 5-tool player. I know Grady Emerson, in most outlets, are going to be the top ranked high school player, but for me, it's Jacob Lombard. It still is. Lombard has not been a purely baseball player yet. He was a incredibly high level soccer player and has spent a lot of time playing soccer, not just playing baseball. And was still one of the best high school baseball players in the country. So to me, it's Jacob Lombard. I think he still has the talent to get there. A more reasonable possibility in reality, though, I would say Gio Rojas, also out of Florida, just a lefty with unreal stuff. But for me, if I was there and you said number 1 overall, you can't take Rock Chalowski, I would still lean Lombard.
Okay. All right. So in that, you've probably already answered a couple of my next questions. But but the next one I'm going to ask you is the first college arm to come off the board in the draft is blank.
Well, it'll be 2 years in a row that the first college arm off the board comes out of UC Santa Barbara. It'll be Jackson, Florida, and it's not close at this point in time.
Okay, so he's going to go back to back with Brimner, huh?
Florida is absolutely dominant. He's been up to triple digits. Ridiculous changeup that he broke in this year. He's got the slider, the sweeper. He's got a feel for all 4 pitches. It's a low 3/4 slot. It's not fair. Flora is the guy, and then there's this big old gap, and then there's everybody else.
Oh, okay, all right. So it is a pretty big gap. Do you see him? Do you see him in the top? Gosh, it's so hard with a lot of these young prep kids. Do you see him going in the top 5, or do you see him more like in the closer to the 10 range?
Top 10 easily, but top 5 possibly. I wouldn't fault anybody if he went as high as 2. But I think top 10, it's pretty easy to say yes. Top 5, as of right now, as we're talking, I think it's not quite there. I think those prep guys and the bats go ahead of them.
How crazy, just as I sit here and I'm thinking in my head, how crazy would it be? Because the Pirates pick at 5. How crazy would that be for him to go at 5? And you think of the 3 years in a row that the Pirates took in pitching, how exciting, how fun that could be.
Last year, I said the only arm they could justify taking was Seth Hernandez because of
Yes.
the needs they need in the lineup. Again, this year, if you're the Pirates, you've got to go bat. But
Probably.
if Flores sitting there, if a Gio Rojas is sitting there, you can't totally fault them if they go that route either.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to assume your answer here, but because if you have him at a chance to go number one, I'm going to guess that your first prep bat off the board is Jacob Lombard, then, right?
It is.
Sure.
For me, it's Lombard. I think a lot of the industry would say Grady Emerson. I'm a bit of an outlier in that respect. I think it's Lombard. I have been high on Lombard. I love Lombard's game. Um, like I said, most of the industry probably still is Grady Emerson, but for me, it is Jacob Lombard. And I mean, it's close, but I'm pretty firm in my Lombard love.
So I think the multi-sport athlete thing is alluring to me in Lombard. I mean, these guys that it just seems to me that these guys that are athletic, when they do finally lock in on one sport later in their professional careers or even in college, they there's another level that they get to, and I did not know that about Lombard. So that you have definitely piqued my interest in him, knowing that he's a two-sport athlete and that other sport being soccer, that would just play very, very nicely into the defensive skills up the middle. So
you can see it, knowing that when you watch him play defense and watch that footwork, you can see it.
Oh, for sure. And I think, again, we probably spoiled this answer, but I'll ask you anyways. The first prep arm off the board is?
So when I did my top 200 high school ranks back in, it was a couple months ago now, so it's obviously changed since then.
Mm-hmm.
Gio Rojas was my number 3 high school player on the board, but it was a trio of lefties: Gio Rojas, Carson Bolamon, and Logan Schmidt.
Mm-hmm.
I still think those three are at the top. Hirschkorn has made the case for himself. Coleman Borthwick's made a case for himself. But I still think, for me, it's between Gio Rojas and Carson Bolamon. I am still going to go Gio Rojas. There's a projectability left in his frame. The stuff is filthy. I really like what I see out of Rojas. But the arms up there, Schmidt, I think, is maybe taking a little bit of a step back from that point. But Bolamon and Rojas are the two kind of battling it out to be the number 1 arm. And if I was on the clock, I would go Rojas.
Yeah, and he's, if I remember right from some of your analysis and other stuff I've read, Rojas has the better off speed, the better changeup, and it just seems like when those guys hit the minor leagues and they have that changeup, they tend to that solid changeup, they tend to move a little faster than
it's a low 80s changeup. It's got real fade. He throws it with a ton of arm speed. And then add to that a filthy sweeping 2-plane slider. It's in a fastball up to 97 from the left hand side. I'm sorry, up to 98. It's with some sink, and it's a high spin fastball, 2,700 plus spin. This stuff is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's impressive, and that's the thing about when I look at it from the show is not purely from a dynasty sports angle, but when I look at it, the drawback to always drafting those prep arms is, goodness gracious, your dynasty league may not be around long enough for these guys to contribute to your team. But like I said, with that stuff like you're talking about, and having that changeup, those guys tend to move a little faster, and he'd be a fun one to watch for sure. Okay, last one, and we kind of hit on this. You kind of spoiled it a little bit earlier, but Vaughn Lackey is a top blank pick.
Top 10 He
Okay.
could go as high as the number 2 collegiate player off the board in the top 5.
Wow. I would have not said that preseason for
I wouldn't
sure.
have said that a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had him 14th on my college board, and that's college separated. At this point, he's in that Drew Burris, Justin LeBron conversation with Flora. So those are the top 5 high school guys. I'm sorry, college guys, and then there's probably just the 4 high school guys. So top 9 is pretty easily set, and you can make an argument for him being the number 2 college bat, number 2 college player on the board, which puts him at 4th or 5th.
Nice. And from everything I read about him recently in the development there at Georgia Tech, he is pretty much a lock to stick behind the dish, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He is a no doubt catcher.
yeah. It's I was reading one of the dynasty leagues I'm in. It's a 2 catcher league, and I'm always kind of looking for that, that what's next type thing. And from everything I was reading, he's pretty much a lock, and Ryder Helfrich from Arkansas
Yeah, I
are
mean,
locks to stay behind the dish. That is, um,
advanced defender, quick transfer, strong arm, athletic, polished blocking, polished receiving. With some of the notes I have,
there
pretty
you
much
go.
screams he's going to stick.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, Shaun. It kind of get your takes on some of those guys, and we need to do, like I said, we need to do this once a month, do a check in, and kind of see where our notes change, because inevitably things will change as the college season rolls on. Some of these guys that start hot will cool off a little bit. Some of the guys that
Hmm.
maybe didn't start as well will pick it up as the weather warms up across the country, and yeah.
And we'll be able to get in and out of this stuff and maybe some deeper dives on some philosophies and things like that as we get closer. Like I said, this is the first one for this season, so we kind of did some long onto the ranks and the teams and some of
Yeah.
that and draft board
Yeah.
setting. But I think if we do this a little bit more often, we can kind of get into some more philosophy and get in and out of the teams a little bit easier and really see where it goes and have a lot of fun. Like I said, we're 100
Yeah.
days of the draft.
Yeah, yeah, and I when we did our draft special last year, we had turned it into 2 episodes because you got so much into the what teams are looking for savings. This guy can save him some money because he's a senior sign, and some of that stuff. Some of that stuff is so interesting and how it affects the draft that I think that we could really discuss some more of that stuff, and that can really change where some of these guys get drafted too, is what teams think they can do later in the draft and get some savings on the top end. So
And this year might have some of that. I mean, we're talking about, and I know we're running low on time, but we're talking about a draft that is pretty deep in terms of talent, and we're going into a year with some real questions as far as what is going to
hmm
be, what the draft's going to look like. I floated out this idea to a couple of scouts just to see the reaction, and it was one of those good concept, not rocking the boat. But if anybody's ever going to go ahead and go over that 5% signing bonus and lose the first round pick next year, this is the year to do it because who knows what 2027 and 2028 are going to be.
correct.
Again,
There's
they're not.
yeah.
Teams have told me it's not happening, but they like the concept. It's just not something they're going to pull a trigger on. But the draft is deep enough that if it were to ever happen, this would be the year.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I can't wait to do some follow up on some of this and get, like you said, dive deeper into some of the players and some of the draft ideas and stuff like that. But man, Shaun, this was great. Again, as we put a wrap on this, let the listeners know again. I know you touched on it in the top, but let them know where they can find you, where they can hear your personal podcast, where they can
Yeah.
find your stuff. Because I mean, I'm telling you guys, I don't just say this because Shaun's part of our team. His draft prep, I would put it up there with anybody else I've ever read. It's can you ever be perfect? Gosh, no, because it's the game of baseball we're talking about. But man, it's not from lack of putting in the time and making the contacts and doing your due diligence. So Shaun, kudos to you, and let the listeners
Thank you.
kind of know where they can get more.
Yeah, at Shaun Kernahan on X. I've not hacked it to this point. As we're talking, uh, I have not clicked the links from you and others. Yeah, on X, Shaun Kernahan, or at the number 3/4 slot. My website, 3/4 slot spelled out.com. I've got my podcast once a week on Thursday mornings, comes out. That's on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, and I actually have it up on YouTube as well. And like I said, 17 scouting reports a week coming up on on the site. Check it out. We've got, I think we hit 515 consecutive days of reports out there. So we're talking getting close to 1,000 reports in the past year and a half, 2 years. So plenty of content out there. Check it out. There's lots of good stuff there.
They say you should learn something new every day. Like how you should only drink Jägermeister at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, ice cold. Like those frozen cavemen they find, which makes you wonder, what would a caveman think of Jägermeister? Well, if you served it warm, he'd probably throw it in your face, say, "Unga boonga," and storm off. And nobody wants that. So drink it cold or not at all. Jägermeister. Damn, that's cold. Drink responsibly. Jägermeister liqueur, 35% alcohol by volume, imported by Mast Jägermeister, U.S., White Plains, New York.
K-pop Demon Hunters, Haja Boys Breakfast Meal, and Huntrix Meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Well, that's good stuff, Shaun. Keep up the hard work, and again, we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely, man.
That'll do it for this episode. We'll catch you guys next time on Futures Focus, a Prospects 1500 podcast.